You can be with someone for decades and still miss the quiet truths that hold a relationship together. Sometimes it's not the big fights or the big gestures that decide the health of your marriage. It's the small, unspoken moments you overlook. The way you walk past each other in the kitchen without looking up. The way "I'm fine" replaces real answers. The way life becomes about managing tasks instead of sharing hearts. I spent years thinking love was about fixing problems as they came, but I've learned it's more about noticing the spaces where problems grow before they show. It took me 40 years to see what I'm about to tell you, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. It changes how you show up. It changes how you love, and it changes how you're loved in return. Most people walk into a relationship thinking love will naturally take care of itself. You find the right person, you build a life, and you figure the rest out along the way. But over time, little misunderstandings stack up. You start speaking less about what matters and more about what's urgent. You avoid the hard conversations because you don't want to start a fight. You tell yourself, this is just how relationships are, even though a quiet part of you knows something feels off. I've been there. I've carried that weight, the mix of love, frustration, and not knowing how to bridge the gap. It took me 40 years to realize there's a different way to be with the person you love. A way that feels lighter, more honest, and more connected. That's what I want to share with you. There's a point in some relationships where love quietly shifts into something else, something more like management. You don't notice it at first. It happens slowly in the routines and the little compromises, in the way you start keeping score without meaning to. You stop thinking about how to connect with each other and start thinking about how to keep the day running smoothly. It's, did you take out the trash? Instead of, how was your day? It's, don't forget the appointment. Instead of, I've been thinking about you. Without even realizing it, you go from being partners in love to being co-managers of a shared life. And while the bills get paid and the chores get done, something deeper starts to dry up. When love turns into managing each other, the conversations change. Instead of listening to understand, you listen to correct. Instead of sharing how you feel, you point out what the other person forgot. You start editing each other's actions like you're the quality control department of the relationship. It's not that you don't care, you do. It's that somewhere along the way, care became efficiency. You stop seeing your partner as someone to know and start seeing them as someone to keep in line. And here's the problem, no one falls in love with a manager. You don't feel cherished when someone is only focused on what you're doing wrong or how you could do it better. You feel judged, even if it's coming from a place of wanting things to be right. It's a subtle shift, but it creates distance. You begin anticipating criticism before it even comes. You keep things to yourself because you don't want to be fixed or advised. And over time, the warmth in your connection fades. You stop reaching for each other just to be close. You stop laughing over the small things because you're too busy discussing the practical ones. Love loses its softness when every interaction is a transaction, a trade of reminders, corrections, and responsibilities. What makes this so tricky is that it often comes from good intentions. You want the house to run well. You want the kids to be okay. You want to avoid mistakes and keep life moving. But love doesn't thrive on performance reviews. It thrives on presence. It thrives when your partner feels like you're with them, not just managing them. And that means letting go of the need to correct every detail, even if you think you're helping. It means choosing to listen without jumping in with solutions. It means noticing the person in front of you before noticing the task that needs to be done. If you found yourself in this place, it's not about shame. It's about awareness. You can step back from managing and step back into loving. Start small. Replace one correction with a question. Swap a reminder for a moment of gratitude. Notice the effort, not just the outcome. And most importantly, remember why you chose this person in the first place. They weren't a project you took on. They were someone you wanted to walk through life with. When you start treating them that way again, you'll be surprised at how quickly the connection returns. Not because the chores disappeared, but because love stopped feeling like a job. The distance in a relationship rarely starts with something dramatic. It starts in the quiet. It starts when the conversations that used to feel open and honest turn into updates about schedules, groceries, and bills. You tell each other what's on the calendar, but stop telling each other what's on your heart. And at first, you might not even notice. Life gets busy. You're tired. You tell yourself it's just a season. But over time, that lack of deeper conversation begins to leave a gap, one that slowly fills with assumptions, misunderstandings, and quiet loneliness. You're still living under the same roof, but it doesn't feel like you're living together in the same way you once did. When we stop talking about the real things, we stop showing each other who we really are in this moment. You change, they change, but those changes go unspoken. Maybe you're feeling stressed, but you don't bring it up because you don't want to be a burden. Maybe they're feeling hurt, but they don't say anything because they don't want to start an argument. So instead of sharing, you keep it in. And when you keep it in long enough, you start to feel like the other person wouldn't understand anyway. That belief becomes a wall, and the longer it stands, the harder it feels to climb over. This is how two people who love each other can end up feeling miles apart without ever moving. It's not that you don't care. It's that you've stopped risking vulnerability with each other. And vulnerability is what keeps a relationship alive. Without it, you're left with logistics and routines, which keep things running but don't keep them close. You might laugh here and there, share a meal, watch a show together, but the deeper emotional thread is thinner than it used to be. You feel it in the moments when something's bothering you and they don't ask. You feel it when they seem off, but you're not sure you're the one they'd want to tell. The truth is, talking about the real things takes courage. It means you have to be willing to be misunderstood for a moment so you can be understood for a lifetime. It means bringing up the feelings you'd rather avoid, not to start a fight, but to keep the connection from fading. It means listening without jumping in to defend yourself so your partner feels safe being honest. And it means creating space where both of you can share without worrying about how the other will react. If you want to close the distance, start small. Ask one real question this week. Share one thought you've been holding back. It doesn't have to be heavy. It just has to be honest. Over time, those little moments build trust again. And when trust grows, the distance shrinks. Because at the end of the day, the real things aren't just about the hard conversations. They're about keeping the door open so your partner knows they can walk through it. The moment you start talking again, really talking, is the moment you start finding your way back to each other. Disagreement in a relationship is normal. Two people aren't going to see every situation the same way, and that's okay. You can work through different opinions. You can even walk away from a conversation still not agreeing and still feel close. But feeling unheard is different. Feeling unheard goes deeper than the topic you're talking about. It touches the core of whether or not you matter to the person you love. When you share something important and it's dismissed, minimized, or brushed aside, it's not just about the words. It's about the unspoken message that what matters to you doesn't matter enough to them. And that leaves a kind of mark that simple disagreement doesn't. When you feel unheard, you stop feeling safe to bring things up. You start editing yourself before you speak. You weigh whether it's worth the effort or the possible pushback. Instead of sharing, you swallow it. And after a while, it's not just the big things you hold back. It's the little ones too. You stop sharing the details of your day. You don't talk about the small frustrations, the subtle hurts, or the passing worries. You tell yourself you're keeping the peace, but what you're really doing is protecting yourself from feeling invisible again. This is where connection begins to erode. Not because either person is necessarily trying to hurt the other, but because one person feels unheard and the other doesn't realize the damage that's being done. They might think they're avoiding conflict by moving on quickly, or that they're helping by offering solutions instead of listening. But when you skip over truly hearing someone, you skip over the very thing that keeps love alive, understanding. Being heard isn't about agreeing with everything your partner says. It's about being present enough to try to understand where they're coming from. It's about letting them finish without rushing in with your own point. It's about showing them that their feelings are valid, even if you don't share them. You don't have to fix it. You don't have to change your mind, but you do have to care enough to really listen. If you've ever been on the other side, the one who's not being heard, you know how heavy it can get. It starts to color the way you see the whole relationship. Even when good things happen, there's a quiet distance that lingers because a part of you feels unknown. And if you've been the one not hearing your partner, it's not too late to turn it around. Start by slowing down in those moments. Ask a follow-up question instead of jumping in with a defense or a solution. Repeat back what you heard to make sure you got it right. That small act can change everything because it tells your partner, I see you. I hear you. You matter to me. A feeling heard is one of the deepest forms of love. And when that's there, even disagreements can bring you closer. But without it, even the smallest conversations can start to pull you apart. Most people think big relationship problems come from big moments, the big fight, the big betrayal, the big mistake. But more often, they grow from small tensions that get ignored. Those tiny moments when something bothers you, but you let it slide. The comment that stings, but you laugh it off. The request you make that gets overlooked, but you tell yourself it's not worth bringing up. On their own, these moments seem too small to matter. But when they stack up, they start to change how you feel about each other. What you don't talk about doesn't just go away. It sits there under the surface, building pressure. Avoiding small tensions feels easier in the moment because it saves you from discomfort. You don't have to risk upsetting the other person. You don't have to explain yourself. You get to keep the peace, at least for now. But the peace you're keeping is only on the outside. Inside, you're keeping score. You remember the last 5 times you felt dismissed or taken for granted. You remember the times you wanted to speak up but didn't. And eventually, one more small thing happens, and your reaction surprises even you. It's not just about that one thing anymore. It's about all the little things that came before it. This is why couples sometimes find themselves in arguments that feel way out of proportion to what just happened. The problem wasn't the wrong tone over dinner or the shoes left in the hallway. The problem was the unspoken buildup of everything that's been avoided. That's when you realize that avoiding small tensions hasn't prevented conflict. It's been storing it up for a bigger one. It's also worth remembering that small tensions are often the easiest to resolve when they're addressed early. A quick, honest conversation about something minor can clear the air and keep it from becoming something major. But that only works if both people know how to bring things up without turning them into attacks. It means saying, "When this happened, it made me feel overlooked," instead of, "You never think about me." It means listening to each other's side with the intent to understand, not just to defend. The truth is, avoiding tension is rarely about the tension itself. It's about the fear of what will happen if we face it. We worry it will start a fight or make things worse or push the other person away. But the opposite is usually true. Addressing small tensions with care and honesty builds trust. It shows your partner that you're invested enough to keep the relationship clean of resentment. It shows them that you value the connection more than you value temporary comfort. If you've been avoiding the little things, you can start changing that now. Pick one small tension and bring it up in a calm moment, not in the heat of frustration. Keep it short. Keep it about how you feel, not about what they've done wrong. And then listen when they respond. Over time, those small, honest moments keep the air clear between you. They keep resentment from growing roots, and they make sure the love you're building has room to breathe. Unspoken expectations are one of the heaviest things a relationship can carry, and most of the time, we don't even realize we're putting them there. They sound like, "I just thought you'd know," or "I figured you'd understand," but we never actually said what we needed. We expect our partner to notice when we're overwhelmed, to step in without being asked, to know the exact way we want to be supported. And when they don't, we feel hurt. That hurt can quickly turn into frustration, and frustration into distance. Not because the other person didn't care, but because they didn't know. And they didn't know because we didn't tell them. The tricky thing about unspoken expectations is that they often come from a good place. We want to feel seen. We want to believe our partner knows us so well that they can anticipate our needs without words. And sometimes they do. But no matter how much two people love each other, neither one can read minds. When we rely on unspoken expectations, we're setting our partner up to fail without them even knowing they're in a test. We're creating a game they don't know they're playing, and then getting upset when they lose. This creates a silent weight between you. Maybe you don't say anything at first. You tell yourself it's not a big deal. But then it happens again and again. You start seeing it as proof that they don't pay attention or that they're not invested in the same way you are. The truth is, they might be showing their care in ways you're not noticing, but because it's not in the form you expected, it doesn't feel like enough. And slowly, without meaning to, you start keeping score. It's not just about big gestures either. It's the little things, how they greet you, how they help around the house, how they support you when you're stressed. If you've pictured those moments in your head a certain way and they don't match, you feel the gap. And instead of closing the gap by saying what you need, you hope they'll figure it out. When they don't, the disappointment grows heavier, even if you never speak it out loud. Breaking that cycle takes honesty and vulnerability. It means saying, "I could really use your help with this," instead of waiting for them to notice you're struggling. It means asking, "Can you check in with me when I've had a hard day?" instead of silently wishing they would. It's not about lowering your standards. It's about giving your partner the chance to meet them by actually knowing what they are. When expectations are spoken, they stop being a silent wait and start being an opportunity for connection. You give your partner the gift of clarity, and you give yourself the chance to feel genuinely supported instead of quietly disappointed. And in a healthy relationship, that's what both people want, not to pass some hidden test, but to know how to love each other better. Comfort in a relationship is a beautiful thing. It means you can be yourself without fear. You don't have to perform. You don't have to walk on eggshells. You can sit in the same room without talking and still feel connected. But there's a point where comfort can quietly turn into something else, emotional complacency. That's when you stop putting in the effort you once did, not because you don't care, but because you've gotten used to the idea that the relationship will just run on its own. You assume your partner knows how you feel. You assume they know you appreciate them. And slowly, the little gestures and the deeper conversations that once kept you close start to fade. Emotional complacency doesn't happen overnight. It's the slow erosion of intentionality. You used to ask about their day with genuine curiosity, but now it's just a passing, "How was it?" You used to surprise them with a note, a touch, or a thoughtful act, but now you tell yourself you'll do it later, and later never seems to come. You used to notice the small changes in their mood, but now you're too distracted or tired to really tune in. And because nothing is wrong on the surface, it's easy to miss that something is shifting underneath. The danger here is that love isn't static. It's either growing or it's fading, and it grows through active engagement. When comfort turns into complacency, the relationship stops getting the attention it needs to grow. It's like thinking a plant will keep thriving just because it's been healthy before. Without water, without care, it doesn't matter how strong it once was, it will eventually dry up. In relationships, that water is presence, effort, and emotional attention. What makes emotional complacency so tricky is that it doesn't feel like neglect. You're still together. You still love each other. You might even think everything's fine because there's no conflict. But absence of conflict isn't the same as presence of connection. Your partner might not be complaining, but they might be feeling unseen. They might miss the version of you that showed up with intention, that pursued them even after the relationship was established. And maybe deep down, you miss that version of yourself too. Breaking out of complacency starts with paying attention again, not in a pressured or forced way, but in a conscious way. It's remembering that the relationship doesn't stay alive on autopilot. It's asking yourself, when was the last time I made them feel truly valued? It's noticing the opportunities to connect and actually taking them. That might mean putting your phone down and looking them in the eye when they talk. It might mean saying the words, "I appreciate you," without any occasion. It might mean learning something new about them, even if you've been together for decades. Comfort is worth keeping. It's one of the most precious parts of love, but it becomes even more powerful when it's paired with effort. When you can rest in each other and still choose each other every day, that's when a relationship stays alive. That's when comfort doesn't dull the connection, it deepens it. "I'm fine" is one of the most common phrases in relationships, and on the surface, it sounds harmless. Sometimes you really are fine, but other times, "I'm fine" is a wall. It's the quickest way to shut down a conversation without having to reveal what's really going on inside. Maybe you're tired. Maybe you don't want to start an argument. Maybe you've tried bringing it up before and it didn't go well, so now it feels easier to say nothing. In the moment, it seems like you're avoiding conflict, but over time, it's not conflict you're avoiding, it's connection. When "I'm fine" becomes the default response, you start training your partner to stop asking. They begin to take your words at face value, even if your tone says otherwise. They sense there's something under the surface. But if every attempt to check in is met with a closed door, they eventually stop knocking. That's not because they don't care. It's because they don't know how to get through. And the less they try, the more you feel like they don't notice or don't want to know. It becomes a cycle where both people are quietly pulling back without realizing it. The thing about "I'm fine" is that it robs your partner of the chance to be there for you. It keeps them from understanding what you need. It also sends a subtle message that you either don't trust them with your feelings or don't think they'll respond in a way that helps. Over time, those unspoken moments stack up. You start to feel alone in your relationship, even when you're physically together, and your partner might feel shut out, unsure of where they stand with you. This doesn't mean you have to open up about every thought the moment it comes to you. Sometimes you need space to process before you share. But there's a difference between taking space and shutting someone out. Taking space sounds like, I'm feeling a lot right now. I just need a little time before we talk about it. Shutting out sounds like, I'm fine when you're not. One leaves the door open, the other quietly locks it. It takes courage to replace I'm fine with the truth, especially if the truth feels messy or uncomfortable. But connection grows in those moments. Even saying something small, I had a rough day, I'm feeling off, or I'm not ready to talk about it yet, lets your partner in. It gives them a starting point to offer comfort, even if they can't fix the problem. If I'm fine has been your go-to for a while, it might feel awkward at first to change it. But the more you practice naming even a little bit of what you feel, the more natural it becomes. And when you do, you'll start to notice something. Your partner leaning in again, the conversations lasting longer, the space between you feeling a little smaller. Because connection doesn't come from pretending everything's okay. It comes from letting someone see you even when you're not fine. Not asking for what you need in a relationship might feel like you're keeping the peace, but over time, it comes with a cost you can't see right away. Maybe you stay quiet because you don't want to seem demanding. Maybe you've been told before that your needs are too much, so you've learned to shrink them down until they feel small enough to carry alone. Or maybe you believe your partner should just know what you need without you having to say it. Whatever the reason, the result is the same. You end up feeling unseen, unsupported, and quietly resentful, even if you never say a word about it. When you don't ask for what you need, you're not giving your partner the chance to show up for you. They might think you're okay because you've never said otherwise. They might assume you're satisfied because you've never pointed to the gap. And while you're sitting there feeling let down, they're going about their day, believing nothing's wrong. This creates a disconnect that's easy to misinterpret. You start telling yourself they don't care. They start believing you're fine. Neither one is fully aware of the growing distance until it shows up in ways that are harder to ignore. The hidden cost here isn't just that your needs go unmet. It's the slow erosion of trust and openness. You begin to believe it's not worth speaking up, and that belief hardens into habit. You learn to rely only on yourself for emotional support, even though you're in a relationship. And eventually, that self-protection can turn into emotional isolation. You're still together, but you're no longer sharing the parts of yourself that make you feel most connected. It's also worth remembering that asking for what you need is not the same as being needy. Healthy relationships are built on clear communication. And part of that is saying, here's what would help me right now. Sometimes that might be asking for more time together. Sometimes it's asking for space. Sometimes it's as simple as, I just need you to listen, not fix it. These are not demands. They're invitations for your partner to participate in your well-being. The fear, of course, is that if you do speak up, your partner won't meet that need. And that's a possibility. But even if that happens, you'll at least have clarity. You'll know where you stand, and you'll have the information you need to decide what comes next. Silence, on the other hand, leaves you stuck in limbo, hurt, but without resolution. If you've been avoiding asking for what you need, start small. Pick one thing, something specific, something you can say in a single sentence. Bring it up in a calm moment, not in the heat of frustration. Give your partner the benefit of the doubt and the opportunity to rise to it. And remember, you're not burdening them by being honest. You're giving them the chance to love you in a way that actually reaches you. Because the real cost of not asking is that you end up living in a relationship where your needs never get met. Not because they couldn't be, but because they were never given the chance to be. In the beginning of a relationship, you notice everything. The way they laugh, the way they talk with their hands, the way they pause before answering a question. You pay attention because it's all new, and because seeing them feels like a privilege. But as time passes, daily life starts to take over. The routines set in. The conversations become predictable. You stop looking as closely, not because you don't care, but because familiarity tricks you into thinking you already know everything there is to see. And that's when something subtle starts to happen. You stop truly seeing each other in the everyday. When you stop seeing each other, it's not that your eyes don't land on them. It's that your attention doesn't. You pass each other in the kitchen, and your mind is on the next meeting. The laundry, the errands. You hear them talking, but you're already forming your response or thinking about something else entirely. Over time, these small misses add up. You don't notice when their tone is softer than usual, or when they linger a little longer at the sink because something's on their mind. You don't see the quiet ways they're trying or the subtle signs they're struggling. And they feel it, They feel the absence of your attention, even if they can't put it into words. It's not always intentional. Life is busy. There's always something to do, somewhere to be. But connection lives in the moments when you slow down enough to notice, when you stop assuming you already know them and start paying attention again like you did at the start. Because the truth is, they're not the same person they were when you first met, and neither are you. People change in small ways every day, and if you're not looking for those changes, you miss the chance to grow alongside them. Not seeing each other isn't just about missing the bad moments. It's also about missing the good ones. The smile they give you when you walk in the room, the way they light up when they talk about something they're passionate about, the little quirks that made you fall in love in the first place. Those things are still there, but when you stop noticing, the relationship starts to feel flat. You're living together, but you're not really witnessing each other's lives. The shift back to seeing each other starts with small, intentional acts. It's pausing to make eye contact when you say goodbye in the morning. It's putting your phone down when they're telling you about their day. It's asking follow-up questions, not just to keep the conversation going, but to understand them better. It's catching the little changes, the new habit, the different mood, the effort they put into something, and acknowledging it out loud. When you make the choice to see your partner in the everyday, you send a powerful message. You still matter to me. I'm still paying attention. I still want to know you. And when that's there, the relationship feels alive again. Because love isn't just built in the big moments. It's built in the daily choice to really see the person standing right in front of you. There's a moment in so many conversations where you can almost feel the shift happen. You start out sharing something, a frustration from work, a hard moment with a friend, or just the weight of your day. And before you even finish, the other person is already moving into solutions. They're telling you what you could do differently, giving you advice, or pointing out how it's not really that bad. And maybe they mean well. Maybe they truly believe they're helping. But the problem is, somewhere in that shift from listening to fixing, the connection you were looking for disappears. You're no longer talking to someone who's with you in your feelings. You're talking to someone who's already moved on to solving the problem. And that's where so many relationships quietly start to lose emotional presence. When problem solving replaces emotional presence, it's rarely out of malice. More often, it's an instinct, especially for people who love us. They don't like seeing us upset, and fixing feels like the fastest way to make that discomfort go away. But here's the thing, what so many people miss is that when someone opens up about something, they're not always asking for a solution. More often than not, they're asking to be heard, to be seen, to feel like they matter enough for you to sit in the mess with them without rushing to clean it up. This is especially common in long-term relationships where patterns get baked in over years. Maybe you've been with someone who, every time you shared a struggle, came back with a plan. Here's what you should do. Here's how to fix it. At first, it might have felt helpful, even thoughtful. But over time, it can start to feel like there's no room for you to simply have feelings. And when there's no room for your feelings, you start to hide them. You share less because you know the moment you speak, the conversation will turn into a list of action steps instead of a moment of understanding. The emotional cost of that is subtle but heavy. You start to feel alone even when you're sitting next to the person you love. You stop reaching out in your vulnerable moments because you know you won't get what you need. And the irony is, the more your partner jumps in to fix, the less they actually understand you, because they're no longer listening for what's underneath. They're listening for what they can solve. One of the biggest truths about emotional presence is that it requires restraint. It's not about rushing toward the better version of the situation. It's about standing still long enough to meet someone where they are. Think about the times in your own life when you felt truly understood. Chances are it wasn't because someone solved your problem on the spot. It was because they slowed down, listened without judgment, and let you know you weren't alone in what you were feeling. Here's the tricky part. When you're the fixer, sitting in someone else's emotions without trying to change them can feel incredibly uncomfortable. It can even feel irresponsible, like you're just letting them suffer when you could be helping. But the help they need first isn't action. It's acknowledgement. Imagine someone saying, "That sounds exhausting. I can see why you're feeling that way." That one sentence can create more relief than an entire list of solutions, because it says, "I hear you. I believe you. I'm here with you." That's the foundation on which any real solution should be built. There's also a hidden layer to constant problem solving that many people overlook. It can unintentionally send the message that the person's emotions are inconvenient, that their pain needs to be wrapped up quickly so life can move on. When that happens enough times, it teaches them to compress their feelings, to present the edited version of their reality so they won't be too much. And the danger there is that intimacy starts to erode, not because of a lack of love, but because of a lack of emotional safety. In healthy relationships, emotional safety comes from knowing you can bring your whole self, your joy, your sadness, your frustration, your fear, and it will be met with care, not correction. That doesn't mean you never solve problems together. It means you don't skip the step of connection to get to the step of resolution. Without that first step, even the most well-meant solutions can land like dismissal. And this isn't just about romantic relationships. You see it between parents and kids, between friends, between coworkers. A teenager tells their parent about drama at school, and the parent jumps straight to just ignore them. Or, here's how you should respond, without realizing the teen wasn't looking for strategy. They were looking for someone to understand how hurt they felt. A friend shares how overwhelmed they are, and instead of hearing them out, we say, you just need to get more organized. In each case, the opportunity for connection is lost, and the other person walks away feeling unseen. If you're the one who often jumps into problem solving, it can help to slow down and ask yourself a simple question before you respond. Do they need me to fix this, or do they need me to feel this with them? You can even ask them directly, do you want advice right now, or do you just need me to listen? That small check and not only gives them what they need, it also builds trust because it shows you care enough to get it right. And if you're the one who feels like you're always met with solutions instead of presence, it's okay to be clear about what you need in the moment. You can say, I don't need advice right now, I just need to vent, or can you just listen for a minute? Sometimes people truly don't know what's most helpful until you tell them. Setting that boundary isn't about pushing someone away. It's about inviting them into the kind of connection that actually strengthens the relationship. The truth is, we live in a culture that rewards doing over being. We measure our worth by how quickly we can fix, solve, or improve. But relationships aren't built in the quick fixes. They're built in the moments we choose to stay, to sit, to be with someone in their reality without trying to rush them into a different one. That's what makes emotional presence so rare and so powerful. When problem solving replaces emotional presence, everyone loses something. The listener loses the chance to truly understand. The speaker loses the feeling of being safe to share. And the relationship loses the kind of depth that comes from weathering feelings together instead of bypassing them. It's worth remembering that most problems in life can wait a few more minutes before being fixed. But the chance to connect in the middle of them, to let someone know they matter more than the outcome, that moment doesn't always come back. Presence says, I'm here for you right now, exactly where you are. And sometimes that's the very thing that makes the problem feel lighter, even before a single solution is spoken aloud. If you start practicing this shift, holding space before offering solutions, you'll notice something change in your relationships. People will open up more. They'll feel safer around you. The conversations will go deeper because they won't be interrupted by the rush to fix. And when you finally do step into problem solving together, it will come from a place of mutual understanding rather than urgency. Because at the end of the day, the heart of connection isn't built in answers. It's built in presence. And presence, real, steady, no agenda presence, is the thing that makes every solution stronger, every bond deeper, and every relationship feel like home.